So hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Chocolate Travels. I'm Joseph with Bean to Bar World, and I'm here with Fredrik from Standout Chocolate in Sweden. So hi, Fredrik. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So let's learn a little bit about how you got started into chocolate. Let's sort of go way back, and I wanted to ask you, did you always love chocolate as a kid? And what sort of chocolate did you grow up with in Sweden?
I mean, my relationship with chocolate isn't special, let's say. When I was a kid, I ate the same candy as all other kids,
Mhm.
supermarket brands,
Were you like
milk
a
chocolate.
chocolate addict? Like, were you like crazy
No,
about
no,
chocolate,
no,
or
no, no,
just okay?
no, no,
Ah,
no.
okay,
It's just a normal consumer, I would say.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
for me, the whole standout chocolate thing isn't about chocolate,
Mm,
really. It's about flavor
mm,
and the craftsmanship and being able to do good on multiple levels, let's
hmm.
say, all the
Right,
way from the farmers to the end consumers,
right.
uh,
Okay, so
basically.
that's interesting then. So for someone who wasn't crazy about chocolate, what was the series of events that led to you what you do now, which you seem to be passionate about?
Yeah, so I'm a trained engineer. I'm trained in product development and innovation management with a master in project management. So after I graduated, I worked about 10 years as a product manager in the construction and automotive industry here in Gothenburg. So you have the
Mm,
Volvo brand, for example,
hmm.
from Sweden. But I always felt that I wanted to do something different as well. So I've always had as a hobby to run my own business. So I worked about 75, 80% as a product manager, I did my own business on the side. It's been different things all the
Okay.
year. When it's become too big, I sold the
Ah,
business and
okay.
I restarted with something else.
You like
So in
starting, you like
2000,
starting projects.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
sure. I
passion.
mean,
Yeah.
that's what I like. So,
Yeah.
um, and I like learning new stuff. So when you find kind of a segment within the market that you can start a business around,
Mm,
normally I don't know anything about it. I just see an
mm,
opportunity and I take it.
hmm.
So I I did or I curated. So Christmas advent calendars is a big thing in Sweden,
Okay.
a big thing. So 2016, I started the first um, coffee advent calendar in Sweden. So
Oh.
I didn't roast or
Hmm.
did anything like that because I
Hmm.
had my day job.
Hmm.
But I curated a box with 8 different Swedish specialty coffee roasters
Mm,
who then participated with 3 different coffees of their choice. And that's kind of where the interest started in terms of flavors, in
okay.
terms of the craftsmanship, and all of the stuff that I've taken as a brand DNA for Standout Chocolate.
Mm,
So the flavor of the specialty coffee compared to supermarket coffee that we are very used to in Sweden. We drink a lot
hmm.
of coffee,
Right.
amongst the most in the world, and Swedish fika is something sacred to us, let's say.
Hmm.
So um, it's when I discovered kind of the difference in flavor level or quality or something. I don't know how to describe it, but
You were amazed by how different the flavor was in this
yeah,
from coffee.
and both how complex the flavor journey was. You know, when coffee is hot, it tastes like something, and then it cools down, and it tastes maybe even better.
Mm,
The flavor journey in that was just amazing, and also that coffee tasted like citrus. What's this? very strange.
Right. So you really
Um,
enjoyed that. Would you say that was the reception from other Swedes when this fine coffee started coming in? Were a lot of them on board? Did they love it, or did they still prefer the traditional flavored coffee?
no, everyone prefer, most people prefer the traditional one,
Mm,
and even if you're a high-end geisha coffee roaster, um, normally you need to have a broader portfolio to survive, because so many people enjoy a higher roast,
mm,
and they are just used to adding milk in the coffee. So
mm.
even if you roast the finest geisha coffee,
Right.
they just pour milk in it. So you have to kind of have the whole spectrum. That's what a lot of coffee roasters does in Sweden, at least.
Mm,
Not all of them, but many do. In that journey, I also added kind of a, I want to broaden the advent calendar to something else as well. So what came to mind was a kind of a Mother's Day box with something. So I did a thing with coffee with only female coffee growers, and then I did a box with chocolate as well. This was in
mm.
2017. So
Okay.
it's a year before I started the
Mm,
chocolate journey. That's my first encounter with bean to bar chocolate. I knew nothing about it, and I got the same sensation as I did
mm.
with the tasting
Coffee.
specialty coffee for the first time. So I was just amazed with the flavors, and it's even more notable, I would say, within chocolate than it
Yeah.
is within coffee. It's
Yeah.
harder to detect the different nuances within coffee.
Yeah. The variance
Um,
in chocolate is much more obvious to beginners, especially compared to coffee or even wine, I
yeah,
find. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I would say that the complexity is even greater as well.
Yeah.
But I got to know the 3, 4 bean to bar makers that was in Sweden at the time, and I kind of learned a bit about the process, because that was a big part of
Hmm.
the books that I curated, kind of informing or educating
Hmm.
the buyers about why they should choose this coffee or chocolate instead of the supermarket brand, why there is such a big price difference, for example, and so how it's grown, how it's made, everything.
Yeah.
Fast forward 6 months, the company I worked for um, was shutting down, so I had to do something else.
Mm.
Either follow the rest of the staff to the next place,
Hmm.
or just follow my dream of having my own business. And
So I guess it was good timing in a
yeah,
way.
it was really good timing. And I kind of, I mean, this was 2017, 2018. Um, so I've just fallen in love with chocolate, you could say.
Hmm.
And I saw that there was, so compared to coffee, there was about 50 specialty coffee roasters in Sweden at the time, and about 3 or 4 craft chocolate makers.
Right.
And I just read somewhere that the craft chocolate scene had really exploded in the US and was kind
Hmm.
of coming to Europe slowly.
Hmm.
So I felt it was a good timing to enter something as well
Hmm.
from a business point of view.
Right.
So I had the passion for chocolate. I had the passion to communicate to the
Y-
buyers,
Right.
and to
That's a big
educate
part of
them.
it. Yeah.
It's a really big part. Um, and also I saw that there was a place for me if I just did the normal kind of the business planning side of it.
Mm.
Is there a place for me in this market? Yes, there is. So I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
Um,
Wonderful.
so I mean, the first step was simply to see, can I make chocolate? So I bought this small machine. I think it's is it 10 pounds machine or something like that, four
Mm.
kilos. And I quickly found a Swedish distributor as well, who at the time had brands like Omnom from
Mm.
Iceland, Chocolate
Mm.
Naive, and Gojo from Finland. kind of good brands,
Hmm.
brands that I looked up to. So I just connected with them and told me this is what I want to do. This is kind of the brand DNA.
Hmm.
Is that something that you want to be a part of? And they said yes without seeing me doing any chocolate. So they gave me a target, let's say a goal. In 6 months, there is this big design confectionery fair in Stockholm. We want to
Hmm.
launch this then because it's kind of the place to be for the Christmas buyers and stuff like that, the shops. I tested so many different origins and beans and roasting profiles, and I had to learn it from scratch. And I asked all these people on internet and the other
Hmm.
Swedish bean to bar makers, and yeah, at the end, I was really happy with the result, flavor wise, and yeah, so we launched in August 2018, very small
Okay.
scale. I was in my basement
Hmm.
doing the bars. Everything was really small scale, handmade at the time.
So you learned basically from trial and error and a little bit from the other makers that you knew sort of helped you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm sure I've done all the mistakes that can be done when making
But
chocolate.
that's a
I
good
mean,
thing to
just
do, making the mistakes. You learn the
yeah,
parameters, the boundaries, you know. That's how you
yeah,
know, and you become more
and I mean,
confident.
yeah, absolutely. And as an engineer, I take notes. What have I done?
Hmm. Hmm. Are there one or
Can I
two mistakes that really stood out? You're like, "Ah, I wish I knew that, or I shouldn't have done that." Or maybe
no?
you over roasted at the beginning, or maybe you over refined,
Yeah.
anything like
I haven't sold it. I've used it for personal purposes, but yeah, okay. Maybe the biggest mistake I've done is just not knowing the kind of the sourcing process or whatever you would like to call it. So I was quite I didn't buy a lot of cacao per purchase
right.
in the beginning. So I once I started with this origin and I bought 2 bags and I opened them and they were completely different. I mean, they were from the same origin, but the harvest wasn't mixed and uniform.
Mm, mm,
So there was different fermentation protocols or different drying protocols. I don't know, but they tasted very different.
mm, mm.
Um, that's kind of where you learn how to not do the same mistake again. So you have to be careful about what you source and
Yeah, I think
quality of it,
that's a big
and
part of
also
cacao is the because when it comes to coffee and especially wine, you know, there's a lot more consistency
yeah,
as far as ingredients go. But cacao can be very wild and all over the place, and like you said,
yeah.
even from the same co-op or location or whatever it is. So,
Yeah, and I mean, if it varies somewhat between years or between
right,
harvests, it doesn't matter. It's part
yeah,
of the
yeah,
it's part of the fun, I would say.
yeah,
Um, but it needs to be in the same kind of ballpark.
yeah.
So we've had some origins that have had um, kind of big weather phenomenons as well. Not
Hmm.
not only cacao, but it can be um, some of our ingredients, for example. If there's been very dry weather, um, it can taste very different because
Right.
kind of I mean, this is something I can't explain. So if there is a dry weather, if it's a monsoon, it changes
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
the
Hmm. And you have to adapt to
uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and speaking about flavor then, so there's many factors that influence the flavor of your final chocolate bars. So
Yeah.
can you let people know, what would you say are the main factors that change the flavor of your cacao and chocolate?
I mean, obviously, I I would say that the main part is made not by me, but by the farmers. So
Mm.
fermentation and drying is crucial.
Mm.
If you get So my job is not to invent new flavors or bring out the flavors. I see my task as not ruin what the farmers have
Mm.
made.
So if they have a
Because
really good bean, your job is to highlight what's
yeah,
happening.
exactly. Just remove kind of the stuff that is unpleasant. Like
Mm.
there is some acidity in dried cacao that you don't want. So that's
Mm.
kind of why you roast and why you conch. Um, it's just part of the process. So what I can do is I can give the I can kind of just highlight the good flavors that is already in the cacao, and I can also incorporate my brand DNA in every bar by the process that I use. So, for example, I have quite a low roast
Mm-hmm.
profile, so
Mm-hmm.
it's quite acidic, it's quite fruity, and I stone grind for a specific duration, depending on the cacao, which gives the chocolate a special mouth feel.
Mm.
So you get kind of the flavor from the farmers, and you get the mouth feel from me as a chocolate maker.
And your business seems to strongly consider the welfare of the farmers who grow the cacao. So what and how can consumers be assured about that aspect when they're purchasing your chocolate?
Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, a big part of this journey is about doing good in all parts. So starting with the consumer, doing good means showing them that there's a better alternative flavor wise, maybe. It's sufficient. Um, Going to the farmers, it's more about just having a good business relationship, having a long term relationship, and choose. I mean, I can't be at the origin, so I have to team up with people who are involved.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, people who source cacao, which I then in turn source from.
Mm-hmm.
So, working with this intermediate company, it's much about choosing a partner that you know are in it for the right reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we use cacao from original beans, and we use their cacao from Peru, the
Mm-hmm.
Urubamba Valley. And this specific cacao, what they make is that they ensure that part of the profit goes to ensuring that the condors, these big birds, are saved for
Mm-hmm.
the future. On the other side, we have, for example, cacao from Indonesia, from BG Cacao. So this cooperative has strong gender equality focus.
Mm-hmm.
So they ensure that the female now can be involved in the cacao business, which they haven't been able to be in the past.
Mm. There seems to be a stigma against cacao from certain parts of the world, such as West Africa, due to quality, but also ethics and situations that are occurring there. So, would you ever consider purchasing cacao from these regions if the source aligned with your values and criteria?
Yeah, it's kind of a philosophical question how you want to approach that. I mean, I have nothing in general against certain countries or part of the world
Right,
or
right.
anything like that. So
No.
I kind of believe so even if the country or the leadership of the country is bad,
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that everyone within the country is
Of course,
bad.
of course. Yeah.
So if there is a cacao farmer or a cooperative or something that is wants to do good
Mm-hmm.
and wants to have a high consistent quality of cacao,
Mm-hmm.
I would I wouldn't have an issue supporting them
Mm-hmm.
in kind of making a change within that country,
Mm-hmm.
let's say.
Yeah, the reason why I
Uh,
ask that is because, as the bean to bar world grows, a lot of the marketing is our chocolate is ethically sourced, but it's usually
yeah,
sourced places outside of West Africa, which is usually, especially Ivory Coast, where a lot of these problems are publicized. So, and the reason why I ask this and to other people as well is that, if there are people in these countries doing good, making great growing great cacao and have a lot of transparency, would you be willing to help them out? Because I think that's a big part of making the change is not just buying from somewhere else that's ethical, but somehow making a difference where it's a big problem too, right? That should be a consideration.
yeah, no, I agree fully. And I mean that's kind of part of. I mean, we try a lot of cacao.
Yeah,
We got a
of
lot
course.
of samples sent to us. Um, and so, I mean, obviously, the first thing or the most important thing for us is this flavor wise
Mm-hmm.
what we're after.
Right,
And so far, I'm kind of adding to the single origin line flavor or cacao or origins that give me a wow sensation. Wow,
right,
this was new to
right,
me.
right.
This is something that I want to share with the world. This cacao stands out to me.
Exactly. And do you ever feel bad to tell people that I didn't really enjoy this cacao? It's not something I want to use.
No, I I don't feel like they um, I don't feel like they send it to me and really are holding the thumbs
Fair
that
enough.
I
Yeah.
should bring it to market.
Right. Right.
It's more about they send samples to everyone
Right. Right.
and
Okay.
someone will take it.
Back to your chocolate. How would you articulate the style of your chocolate? You mentioned a little bit, but every maker has their styles. How would you represent your style of chocolate? Obviously,
Yeah,
you
good
were saying the
question.
light
So
roast and the fruity, but
yeah, so I think that's probably it. We do a light roast. We want to keep it. I don't know the right words maybe, but we want to keep it snappy. So I rather have a high kind of wow, what was this kind of
Mm,
experience
mhm.
than a kind of mellow
Yeah.
but very complex.
That idea is very different than traditional bean to bar chocolate in Europe because a lot of European brands, especially earlier on, France and Italy, is
Mm.
subtlety. There's a lot of subtlety.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you're
It is.
saying, I don't want the subtlety. I want pop. I want power.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So a lot of the chocolate that I taste from other makers. So I done this. The company that or the organization that makes the International Chocolate Awards, for example,
Mm,
they have this IICCT,
hmm
which then certifies people in chocolate tasting and cacao
hmm
evaluation and such. So before I started making chocolate, I knew that I need some knowledge about this,
Right.
and I thought chocolate making can't be that hard. I can probably do it. But the tasting side of it and kind
Mm,
of feeling taste and communicating taste and not just saying this tastes like a summer evening at my grandmother's
mm,
house,
mm.
for example, which is a fair enough explanation of
Right.
how something
But
tastes.
I
But I
guess as an
wanted to kind of
engineer, you
pinpoint.
wanted something more concrete.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So um, then during this certification course, you try a lot of different chocolates, and I find it a bit, yeah, they are all great chocolates. Don't get me wrong, but they are
Mm.
a bit plain, or
Right.
not poppy enough for me, at least.
Right.
I
Fair
wanted
enough.
that
Yeah.
oomph
Yeah.
in it.
When I first
And
got
that,
into fine chocolate, it was the same. It was a lot of that subtlety. But
yeah,
once new makers started doing sort of what you're doing with the more pronounced flavors that kind of hit you in the face,
yeah,
sometimes you go back to the other ones and I feel like you kind of erased a little bit of the flavor that's there. It's nice to have this strong, interesting
yeah.
flavor come through.
And also we do. I find it more and more that we grind finer than other makers, so you
Mm,
kind of get a different mouth feel
mm,
without grittiness, and with the special kind of melt, um, that you don't get with. You do get it with other makers, but I see a tendency to have a bit grittier chocolate,
mm,
from most makers.
mm. And what about the lineup of bars that you have now? You have a growing selection of flavored bars, like Nordic flavored bars, the kelp
Yeah,
and spruce tip and the porcini is very interesting.
yeah,
Do you plan to do more outrageous flavors like that? Do you have any ideas of future products you wanted to share?
yeah. So I think most makers start out with a single origin lineup.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how you
You
do
want
it,
to be a
and you want.
purist,
Yeah,
simple. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And then you kind of find out that you're not alone in the world who makes chocolate, or
Yeah,
who makes good chocolate.
yeah.
Anyone can do a Billy's Maya Mountain 70% chocolate bar. So we wanted to have something else. Okay, so I introduced also a dark milk
Right.
line, which is the same cacao, same roast
Yeah,
as our 70%,
yeah.
but with I think it's 60% cacao,
Mm,
whereof I think it's 47% nibs, and 13 cacao butter.
mm.
So you get this a strong flavor of the origin
Yes.
compared to a normal milk
Yeah. No,
chocolate
the
bar.
Madagascar one, when I tried it, I was like, wow, this is
Yeah,
amazing. Usually I wouldn't say I don't like Madagascar origin, but this one with the milk, oh my goodness, it was amazing. Really, really good.
yeah. Thanks. So that's kind of, we wanted to have something for people who are, well, I mean, a lot of people still think 70% is too dark.
Right.
So we want to kind of have an entry level chocolate for them.
Do
And
Swedish
so,
people like dark or do they mostly eat milk chocolate?
I mean, I think most are raised with milk chocolate. And I mean, when I say milk chocolate, it's kind of the 30%
Right.
cacao kind of milk
So,
chocolate. Um, but then when you've done that, you've done the single origin, and you kind of see yourself in the bigger picture in the world. You want to kind of communicate who you are and where you come from, and
hmm
who are the standout chocolate.
hmm
Well, we are from Sweden.
right.
We enjoy kind of the nature and our specific Swedish or Nordic traditions. So therefore, I wanted to bring out a range of uh, flavored bars, where the chocolate doesn't shine through as much. So we chose the Öko Caribe
Dominican.
cacao from Dominican Republic, which is a great cacao, but
hmm
it doesn't have that pop in
hmm
it. Uh, so it allows the
Can carry the other
flavoring
flavors.
to take the over part.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something crazy as well.
Mm.
So I experimented a lot with different flavors.
Hmm
Yeah, basically I settled with some of the most interesting flavors or the flavor combinations that we
Hmm.
could find. So we have the more traditional fruity ones like blackcurrant and blueberry. So the
Right.
European blueberry, not the US blueberry.
Mm.
Um, and we have the porcini one,
That's a nice one. Yeah.
um,
Mushroom and
which
chocolate can go really nice together. I love that
yeah,
combination.
it's kind of a strange. So blueberry, blackcurrant, you understand. So it tastes blueberry kind of,
Right.
and the porcini is more. So the mushroom itself is a nutty one, which gives the chocolate kind of this nutty, almost nougaty flavor, um, which most people don't expect. So this is actually, I think, the most sold bar after we've held tastings.
Mm.
Um, and then we have, of course, the spruce shoots bar, which
Right.
just,
Yeah.
to me, it tastes just like when I was a kid going out in the forests,
Mm.
picking these spruce shoots and just eating them as they are. Very citric
Yeah.
flavor.
A lot of people
Uh,
don't expect it to be fruity and citrusy. They
no,
expect something
no,
different. Yeah.
they expect a more mature
Yeah.
forest
Yeah.
flavor, which
Yeah.
is interesting. And I get, I think the most comments I get is from the US when it's that it's not tasting as they expected. They expected
Right.
something else,
Yeah.
and I think they also compare it to pine,
Right.
that
That's what
kind
they
of
think. Yeah.
flavor, and that's kind of different as well. Then,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then we have this sugar kelp and sea salt,
Hmm.
which to me was really interesting to develop
Mm.
because it's all about how much sugar kelp you add.
It's a strong
If you add
flavor.
too much,
Yeah.
ooh, it's not good. If you
Yeah.
add too little, it doesn't taste anything. So we kind of, by adding the sea salt as well, we could
Mm.
kind of highlight the flavors that we wanted to highlight. And it was kind of amazing that we got these flavors of like rose hip and green tea and those
Mm.
kind of flavors instead of fish food and those kind of, if you go over the top, it's just not pleasant.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you have the
So
brown
those,
cheese, the brown
yeah,
Swedish cheese, which is really nice as
exactly. So
well.
those were kind of the Nordic nature
Yeah.
uh, range. And so I also, as I'm passionate about coffee, and I wanted to do a coffee bar, and I wanted to do a geisha coffee bar.
Mm.
So it was a big challenge to find an organic certified geisha, which I think we found a really good one actually. So we did a range then with Swedish favorites is what we call it. So
Mm.
what what do Swedish people really enjoy? So coffee is one of them. We're one of the most
Yeah.
yeah, people drinking most coffee in the world. Um, we also have this salt licorice
Mm. Right. Right. That's a
chocolate.
very powerful bar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, North
and we want
Americans don't expect that powerful licorice flavor.
and the funny thing is that developing that bar was really hard.
Yeah.
So we added um, the beach smoked sea salt.
Hmm.
Um, we it's not for the smokiness. It's for adding what do you call it, volume or something, kind
Complexity,
of
depth.
yeah, just adds it makes it a full-bodied
Mm.
bar instead
Mm.
of, otherwise it was kind of watery mouthfeel actually.
Okay.
So Swedish people are crazy about licorice. So and either you like licorice or you don't like licorice.
Usually, yeah.
So
Yeah.
having people try it and finding the right level of licorice was
Mm.
really
Mm.
hard.
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you want to please those who likes chocolate and just wants to have a flavor in the chocolate,
Right.
and you also want to please those who are licorice lovers, and they all of them wanted to basically replace all the chocolate with licorice, and we're happy. So, but in the end, it was a nice balance.
Yeah.
Um, and finally, we have the what we call getmese, which is basically caramelized goat
Way.
cheese. Yeah. So it's traditionally eaten in the parts of Sweden where I come from.
Mm.
So when we drive from the southern part of Sweden, where I live now, to my parents in the northern part of Sweden, we do all these stops at different, yeah, just to have a coffee break, basically. And you can either choose from eating I don't know what the English word is, but let's say it's a pancake with cloudberry jam,
Okay.
or you can eat a sandwich with getmese on it.
Hmm.
That's the two options you have.
Mm.
So it's really strong within the middle part of Sweden, up to the northern part of Sweden, and yeah, it's just a really nice uh, caramel flavor.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that the goat is not too strong. It's there, you can
yeah,
enjoy it, but it's not overpowering.
no, so you
And
should, so yeah, so
yeah.
the reason of the balance we have in that part, you should taste the goat, let's say,
Hmm.
because otherwise
What's
it's
the point?
no point having
Yeah.
it, let's say. But it shouldn't be overpowered, because it is a real, if you try the cheese by itself, it's really really strong.
Yeah.
So you need
I
to
made
kind
it
of have,
once years ago because I was making cheese and I said, what can I do with all this whey? And then I
yeah,
saw like Norwegian, Sweden's, they boil it down. I said, oh, let me try
yeah,
it. And I wasn't expecting it to be so strong. But when I saw your bar had this, I'm like, wow, yeah, that's amazing. Because chocolate and cheese for me go really, really nice together.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a beautiful bar as well. That and the porcini, I think are my two favorite Nordic bars.
yeah,
Really, really good.
yeah, it's the, yeah, those are nice, both of them.
And just finishing off here, what would you say are the main challenges from a business perspective for bean to bar makers like yourself today? What would you say are the challenges for you and other bean to bar makers today?
I think it's finding new ways of doing business.
Mm,
I think it's everyone starts making chocolate bars and trying to sell them to the same stores that are buying chocolate, and then it kind of just boils down to a price war, basically.
mm, mm,
So you need to also find different products. It's
mm.
very easy to start with bars because you get going,
Right. Yeah.
but I mean, for example, we do tasting courses, and I mean, obviously, our compared to other companies making tastings is that we have a factory.
Right.
We can show them how it's made.
Yeah.
That's really appreciated.
Yeah. You have to do that.
Um,
You have to educate your consumers. I think that's
yeah,
the only way to do it.
absolutely.
And you mentioned about coffee culture in Sweden. And, do you think that's another avenue for bean to bar makers is pushing sort of chocolate for coffee shops, whether to sell or use, in their drinks and things like that?
Yeah. Oh, obviously. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's without saying too much. That's kind of our next step in our
Okay.
journey. That's
Yeah.
kind of the products that we're looking at
Yeah.
the moment. So we do have a lot of uh, the best coffee places, not cafes
Mm,
necessarily, but places selling really high-end coffee
mm,
beans and coffee machines to people. They are selling our chocolate as well. We have our chocolates as couverture. So the Swedish culinary team
yeah.
used our chocolate in the Olympics a few weeks back, which was
Yeah.
really nice.
That's definitely an untapped area because, there's chocolates used as an ingredient for so many things, and chocolatiers, a lot of chocolatiers don't even understand anything about bean to bar. So I think that's definitely a market that bean to bar makers can push into.
Yeah, and I think what the biggest challenge in that area is probably that if you make, let's say, bonbons, you're really careful about making the internal ingredients.
Right.
So if you make kind of an apple puree,
Yeah.
you want to have picked the apple yourself, and kind of from my grandmother's garden,
Right.
stuff like that. But you buy the shit chocolate just because it's cheap and it's full
Right.
of ingredients that makes it easy to work with.
Exactly.
Flavor wise, it's not really
Yeah.
anything to.
It takes more skill to use bean to bar chocolate, especially as a
Yeah,
chocolate.
absolutely,
But it's
absolutely.
possible. It's definitely
Yeah,
possible.
in my company, I have an employee who is amazing with chocolate. So she actually won the Swedish national championship for making bonbons a few
Nice.
years back. So she's been a big part of um, kind of educating our customers,
Hmm.
the professional customers like bonbon makers,
Hmm.
restaurants, and such, that you can use this. The single origin chocolate tastes more, and
Yeah.
you can pair it with this and this and this and that, and you will really increase kind of your experience for your customers as well.
Yeah.
And so
It's wonderful.
the girl who won the Swedish national championship for bonbons this year, she used she has done a blueberry bonbon in the past, but she now uses our blueberry
Mm,
chocolate as well
beautiful.
in the shell to increase the
Yeah.
flavor, and
That's amazing.
that led to further success for her as well. So
Wonderful. Well, I hope we see more of that because that would be incredible.
yeah, yeah,
And it would also help, chocolatiers, they support those big multinational companies that just pump out average chocolate, and they care so much about all the other ingredients, kind of like you were
yeah,
saying, but chocolate never think about. So imagine if a lot of them started to appreciate fine chocolate, it would really
yeah.
shift the bean to bar world, I think, in a good way. So I hope that'll happen. What is the best way for people to connect with you, to purchase your chocolate?
I mean, they can connect via our website, standoutchocolate.com, or our social media, Instagram, Standout Chocolate. Buying our chocolate in the US, for example, or the North America, our distributor is so Caputo's Market.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Frederick. Really nice to talk to you, to get to know you, learn about your business.
Yeah, thank you. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Talk to you again soon. Take care.
Take care.
Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with incredible chocolate makers from around the world. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com, your portal for all things fine chocolate, virtual tastings, free learning resources, research, and much more. Subscribe to the newsletter to stay in touch, and donate to the free app and free resources here. Contact me for any chocolate-related questions you may have.